basically the global UU community helped to pull him out of prison, out of jail, probably save his life and get him out of the country because he was advocating for Unitarian Universalism in his own country. He was caught up in this and imprisoned. This is a long story. This has been going on for centuries, but it's happening right now. It's not an old story that we're a part of. It's a very current, very contemporary story that we're part of. Mark Kiemba, a few years ago, with the help of the UUA and the global community and the partner church in Tulsa, we were able to pull him out of when he was about to be arrested, and his school, because he works with children, were about to be tagged with this gay thing and really create some really potential problems. We pulled him out and gave him sanctuary in the United States and allowed him to do that. This is happening right now. This is the global UU community coming together to help each other. Now, also what's happened in the last few years is we connected with a group in Holland who have very similar values to ours. They are not Unitarian by name, but there's 40 communities in Holland that have now become a part of the ICUU because we made the connection with them and invited them in. This also happened in Indonesia, a community with 17 different congregations who said, we're Unitarians and we didn't know it, and now they're a part of the ICUU. This is just what's happened in the last 3 to 5 years, but this is a story that's been going on for millennia. And so I just want to say a little bit about how our forebears, the foremothers and forefathers of this faith, initially saw this idea of religious freedom in the story of Moses and Miriam and the Jews' escape from slavery in Exodus from the Bible. They saw it again in the Roman persecution of the early Christians through the story of the Bible, where they saw that God in both of these stories was on the side of freedom. Where freedom was is where God was, where the Spirit was, where the truth was. And so God was on the side of the Jews coming out of Egypt. God was on the side of those early Christians who wanted the freedom to practice their faith and be in relationship with God in the way that they understood it, but the Romans were trying to persecute them. God wasn't with the Romans, God was with the early Christians. Then it continues throughout history when the church was trying to persecute people, the scientists like Copernicus and Galileo and Darwin and others who, because they were trying to find the truth in a free exploration way using reason, they were being persecuted by the church. But we saw that the spirit of what is good and what is right and what is true was on the side of the scientists and not the official church at that time. And so we see God, Spirit, truth working in the world through freedom, the discovery of truth, the discovery of good justice coming into the world through freedom. So to continue that, people have died for this. People have been arrested for this. We have the stories of Servetus. We have the stories of David Francis, who was imprisoned for innovation and in religious thought, but who also came up with the first declaration of religious freedom and ended up imprisoned and martyred in there. Priestley, Joseph Priestley, another one, who had to run for his life for his beliefs. The Pilgrims and the Puritans who left Europe to come to the New World here in America for purposes of religious freedom. The American Revolution, Jefferson and Benjamin Rush and others here who were advocating for freedom. We see the movement of the Spirit through, where do we see it? When we're looking for it, we see it through freedom. The anti-slavery movement in the United States, women's suffrage, then Hajam Kisar Singh in India. Right? The similar story happened over 100 years ago where a Unitarian minister, Reverend Sutherland, was traveling in India and met Hajam Kisar Singh, who had a number of communities around. He said, I was a Unitarian and we didn't know it. And they took on the name Unitarian, just like what's happened in Holland and Indonesia in the last 3 to 5 years. It's been going on for centuries. Toribio Quimada and now Rebecca Sienas. This happened in the Philippines. But in that story, it was different. It was the other version. It was, he found us, came to the American Universalist Association and said, we're Universalists. We want to connect with you. And then they found a way to connect. This has been going on generation after generation after generation, and we continue this work. Norbert Chapek, the civil rights movement in the United States, gay rights movements that the Unitarians and Universalists have been behind, and in Britain and in other places. In the 1940s, this work was very uncoordinated. Chapek was trying to help Jews. The Transylvanian Church, some of the folks in the Transylvanian Church bishops were trying to help the Jews. The Americans through the UUSC, what became the USC, were trying to help the Jews. But it was an uncoordinated global effort to try to help people like Fulgence, like Mark Kiemba, but it was not coordinated. There was no global coordination of the Unitarian Universalists around the world. But now, this is a different era, and we, through the ICUU, not through Partner Church, not through any other group, through the ICUU, we've created a global network of people to do what's been going on for generations and for millennia in today's world. UU's working together, creating a network. Hold on. So here's what I want to say. Help us to build this network. Join with us. Put your time, talent, money, and power, your heart and your soul with us in the first part of the 21st century, when freedom is still trying to unfold in the world. Help us to build a global, connected network of religious free thinkers and freedom fighters who stand in this proud, courageous, still often dangerous tradition. Why? Because it's something that people have been doing for millennia for freedom. Why? Because it saves lives. Why? Because it helps move humanity and society forward. Why? Because the incarnation of freedom requires wholehearted people embodying these stories and these ideals. Why? Because the incarnation of freedom requires wholehearted people embodying these stories and these ideals. Why? Because the spirit of love and freedom is calling you to use your one precious life to stand on the side of love and freedom, not just in your city, not just in your village, not just in your nation, but in partnership with women and men who are doing this around the world. We have UU partner organizations, Partner Church Council, UUSC, UUA, others, but only the ICUU is fostering a network of global Unitarian Universalist community. Only the ICUU is fostering and training new emerging Unitarian Universalist communities. Only the ICUU is seeking and finding a network with already existing groups who are Unitarian and Universalist by the same or another name, who are part of this ancient and contemporary story of freedom of religion, freedom in religion. Not freedom of, but freedom in religion. And today, that matters a lot. We need each other, we need you, we need the ICUU, lives depend on it. Thank you.